Hi there, my name is Memo, this is my channel, Houseplanty Goodness, and essentially it's a place where I like to geek out about my big passion. You might be able to see some of it behind me, it's tropical houseplants. And today is the much awaited 2-week update from the recent Ecuagenera pop-up haul, unboxing, depending on what you want to call it. And boy oh boy do I have some updates for you today, and it's only been 2 weeks. But for the people that have not seen the first video, I will link it at the top there. And just to give you a bit of a rundown of all the plants that I did get, I think there were 8. There might be more. Can't remember. I will give you a list of all the plants. And I thought it was a bit of a quick little touch base on the previous haul as well, because we're nearly 6 months in now since I got the plants from October, November time, I think. So most of those have got some interesting updates. However, I've got a list because I cannot remember off the top of my head. It's a Sunday morning when I'm filming this and the coffee has not kicked in yet. So the plants that I did purchase on this most recent Ecuagenera haul essentially were retrialing the Philodendron heterocraspidum, then also the Anthurium lutheri, the Anthurium clavigerum, the Anthurium queremalens. Queremalens. Still don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. The Anthurium rugulosum, which is the one that was kind of textured a bit there. The Anthurium frederiksdalii, the Philodendron patricii, the Philodendron sharonii, the Anthurium eminens, and the Anthurium cupulispathum. Nice big words on a Sunday morning with limited coffee, as I said. But without further ado, because there's a lot of plants that we need to get through, let's look at the first one, which I think I'll start off with the one that worried me the most because of past experiences. So let's start with the Philodendron heterocraspidum. So we're starting off strong with this one. It is doing exceptionally well. The new growth point is still there. Whether or not that leaf is taking its time to come out, it might be kind of sacrificing this most recent leaf, but it is doing quite well. Root-wise, it doesn't look like there's a lot of root growth, but based on the fact that I've been propagating cuttings of this from my previous plant that didn't do that well from day one, I would imagine this doesn't grow roots particularly fast. But, and I hope I don't have to chew my words in the future, everything is still feeling very turgid. So that is quite good, and it's still quite upright. It is obviously in my... This is an interesting one because I knew that the roots were going to be quite slim on this one. So I mixed the Soil Ninja coarse mix and the fine mix in terms of semi-hydro. So it's got a bit of a combination of both large and small kind of particles in there. But so far, so good. And I think this one at the moment, I'm kind of watering it. I kind of set everything, as I said on my first video, to 7 days. That changed quite quickly within the first week because this new conservatory gets really warm really quickly. So I've had to up it up to once every 5 days. And most things seem to be doing quite well with that one. But the aerial roots are still quite good. It is plumping up at the top, which is, for me, a good sign that nothing seems to be struggling, and Janky support stick for the win. And it obviously lives right behind me here. I don't know if you might be able to see it. So you might see it in some of the videos. Center stage, I still love that plant. It surprised me how much I ended up loving that plant. But whilst we're on the point of the heterocraspidum, let me give you a bit of an update from the previous haul and the one that really did struggle the mostest. So the cutting that is in the bag is still doing quite well. I don't know whether or not there is a root that I can see there at the very top. You might not be able to see this. I'll see if I can add a clip. But there's also, it's confused. The growth point is at the bottom instead of the top. So I have a very sneaky suspicion. I don't know, no, because the leaves would have... I may have put this the wrong way around. Oh no, there is a growth point at the top as well. So it's doing things, but it's surviving, and it hasn't got any more yellow. It's doing its thing. I will be repotting this. Probably not today because I don't have time, but tomorrow just to kind of give it something that it can actually finally grow in. And now that I know that there's a growth point at the top, I'm a bit more comfortable with that. But also, before I move on, I did also have a tip cutting, and I will show you that now. And you can see the tip cutting on how little it was, and this was still fresh when it came out, so I wasn't expecting it to do anything. But look, it's a little baby Heterocraspidum leaf, and there is a new growth point that's coming in there. I still can't see any roots in this. This I've got in Leca, and the water reservoir is part of the same thing because this was being propagated in my bubbler propagator, and it did really, really well. And there's some nice arrow roots that's happening on this, but these roots are some of the finest roots I've ever seen on a philodendron. But so glad I still got the other one, but really glad that this is doing well. It's been 6 months, so it kind of gives you an indication of how long this has taken to stabilize, let alone start getting some of those initial leaf sizes back. But this was the tip cutting. Obviously the first leaf, pathetic. But I'm curious if the next leaf or the leaf after that will start sizing up a bit more a bit more considerably, because if you saw the other cuttings, the original leaves were quite large. So moving on to the Anthurium eleutheri, and this was one that a lot of people I think got quite interested in based on the comments that I saw of that initial video of the haul. This one and the Frederick Stahlii, which I will say I have found my people on the internet, if you guys are all getting really excited about that, because I thought I'd be the only one that'd be really into these strappy ones, because everybody was just like, I don't know, I want the heart-shaped leaves and I want the velvety leaves. But apparently a lot of you like the same stuff that I do, so I am just over the moon with that one. It's great. Nice to know I'm not alone. But yeah, so you've got, this one is still doing well. The roots are looking good. This one is in a chunky semi-hydro mix. It's doing really, really well. I found with all of my anthuriums that I got from Ecuagenera, as long as I put them straight into like a chunky semi-hydro mix, they tend to do all right. This one had a new leaf that was coming in, and it was quite interesting because I will show you this, because I thought it had got, I'm trying to see how I'm going to do that. It had got destroyed. Can you see that crispiness is happening at the very top? That was the leaf, and this was the petiole that you can kind of see. I'm trying to see, it's difficult to do these things. There you go. This is the petiole, and that was the leaf. So that did get stuck. So that has gone fully crispy. So I've only got the petiole at the moment. But, and I've just noticed this, I don't know whether or not you'll be able to see, yes, it is branching, which is quite nice. So I think this one, based on kind of further research that I did also before I bought this, but since I have had it, oh no. This isn't an Ecuagenera issue, this has got spider bites on it, which is bad. Not a huge amount. I find with my anthuriums a lot of times if they get spider bites, they can tend to be a bit isolated. So I don't know what this is touching. I need to do some exploring because I think the spider bites on here have come in from something else. I'll see if I can bring it in. You might be able to see it if I hide my face. Can you see that little damage and the speckling that's happening there? Spider mitage. So, and I've only just got my first batch of summer spider mite predator satchels. So that has been added everywhere that I thought might be at risk of spider mites or might be showing some initial signs of spider mites. This did not get it. This will be getting one of the satchels that on plants that have got multiples. I might just nick one and put it on this so they can deal. But yeah, overall doing really, really well so far. Obviously 2 weeks updates, but everything is looking good. Everything is looking good. Obviously, you can see some of the cosmetic damage that was there because of that coldness and everything else, but the leaves are plumping up. This is feeling a bit limp at the moment. So I'm still trying to figure out with some of these plants on how often they want to be watered. This is interesting because I wouldn't want to water this too often because there's not a lot of plant there. But it might look like it might need a bit more. The difference, I think, as well between the Lutheri, which is this one, and the Frederick Stahlii, is I think the Frederick Stahlii grows a bit more like the Vitarifolium, so it will be kind of more of a pendant and drop down. This one, if I'm not mistaken, is one that would normally potentially, and you can see that it's growing quite high up, would potentially grow up against the side of a wall. Tree. There's no walls in the jungle, but you can tell I need another coffee, can't you? But yeah, so this is different. This one's more of a climbing. The other one, I don't want to say scrambling, but it's more of a pendant anthurium. And I've added that to the table in front of me because if I put it back, I will forget to add the predator mice. Moving on to the Clavigerum anthurium. And this one, I didn't give it enough funfair on the previous one, going, oh, it's got like multiple leaves and it might be 3 leaves. No, no, no. This one is one of the 2 that are quite cool. This one in the eminence, and I'm showing it, it's up there, and I'll bring it down in just a moment. This is the one that tends to get those umbrella leaves, so it will have loads of leaves on each one of the petioles. The eminence is just regular kind of umbrella-esque leaves. This one, and you might be able to see it from that leaf there, probably not as obvious, maybe when I say it, you'll probably notice it. Each one of those leaves on this tends to get that weird undulation that you get sometimes on oak leaves. So I don't have, obviously, a mature version of this just yet, but do a quick Google search and do a quick Google search and you will see that you will see those leaves that look very oak-like, and I thought it was quite interesting. So maybe not one that everybody knows of, but, oh, and very excitingly, I mean, the roots are doing good. They're doing good. This is also, oh, and we've got some new roots that are coming in there, and hopefully if I hide my face, you might be able to see some of the green roots. Those are new root tips. And this, and hopefully that might come up there, has got a new growth point coming in, so that's good. But yeah, care similar to everything else. This is one that I missed when I was updating the watering from 7 days to 5 days. So, and this is actually quite close to a radiator. But it's doing quite well. I'm trying to see the leaves. There's maybe a bit of edema, but that might be me. I don't know whether or not that's going to come up. Oh, potentially, yes. You might be able to see, can you see the edema, the darker parts of the leaves there? But it doesn't seem to be affecting it too much. And as I said, the edema might be because I had it drying out for too much and then watering it. But the roots are still happy. Yes, it will probably throw a bit of a hissy fit now because I forgot it. Bad plant parent. But it should do well, and this is doing okay. Now for my favorite anthurium to pronounce, the Anthurium querumalens. And this one is doing well as well. So this is in the same kind of coarse semi-hydro mix, and I'll bring it in so you can see some of those roots. There you go. And it's got the new growth point there, which is fine. Remember, this is the one that was a bit mushy at the top. That's fine. I've cut that off and it's doing really, really well. I've added a bit of a sphagnum collar because there was some area roots popping up there, so I wanted to kind of give it something on there. This is interesting because this is the oldest leaf. This is the second oldest leaf. So that's fine. Oh no. People that are here around for a while know what I've just seen. Mealybugs. So need to deal with that. Oh, I love the summer months. We all look forward to the summer months because of the extra growth. The one thing we all forget in the middle of winter is summer months also means pests. So the good and the bad. And this was the youngest leaf, which obviously sustained the most amount of damage. And you can see what the damage looks like now after a few weeks, a couple of weeks of it kind of having that cold damage. And it still doesn't feel, maybe it's almost entirely hardened off. So that's quite good there. But I mean, overall, it's doing well. It's doing okay. And I think this surprised me because a lot more people actually knew about this than I thought. It was just me that's obviously been living under a rock for a while. But so far, so good with this one. Now coming on to the Anthurium rugulosum. So this one is the one, and you might be able to see for the eagle-eyed amongst you there, I've left the petioles there, and I was just I cut the leaves, I cut the crispy leaves this morning, and I'm just like, I need to throw these away. And I'm just like, I'm filming this. I should have left them on there. I've left them on there all week to show you what it kind of looked like. But never fear, they are still So both of those leaves fully crisped up. They went yellow and then they just crisped up. So that's another thing that is worth kind of noting there as well. There is a difference when the plant is struggling potentially because of moisture and all of these things. If you see yellowing of the leaves and those leaves are never truly drying out to a brown, at least in my experience, that might signify like a moisture issue. If they turn yellow and then they go crispy, you heard that kind of crispiness of the leaves, it just means that that plant might be sacrificing the oldest leaves. And those two leaves were the oldest leaves on this plant, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, looking at the way that it's growing, they are the two oldest leaves. But I have still got three very, very happy, very turgid leaves on this, and it's doing really well. The roots are really good on this as well, and I'm trying to see a good angle so you might be able to see. So if I bring that up there, you might be able to see the roots there. And yeah, like overall, this one surprised me. I didn't think I was going to like this as much as I have, but I'm really glad that this is doing well. But you can see now that it's kind of plump up a bit. And you can also see with a conservatory, when you've got top-down lighting, you get this problem where the leaves start going up. If I had a window, it would probably be more like this. And this is actually against a window, so it is kind of dropping down. But some of these are going up. I don't mind. They look like little umbrellas. But yeah, I think this one is really good and it's doing well. I mean, those two leaves, it's normal. I mean, you need to remember that a lot of these plants, if there's any form of stress that happens with them, they will sacrifice the oldest leaves until they kind of get used to their new habitat as well. So let me put this down. The other thing that's worth noting, and I did a video recently on a plant book review, I'll add it up there. It's a very different video for me, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. And Sarah, the plant rescuer, in her book was kind of mentioning this as well, is that a lot of the times you've taken a plant for where it was and it was really happy, and it might, she kind of described it to, it was like the kind of all-inclusive spa, and it was having the time of its life, and then you just yanked it out and brought it into a new environment until this becomes its new prime spa location. It might sacrifice a couple of its oldest leaves just whilst it's getting used to everything else, because it's using its energy to kind of acclimate basically to its new space. And that could be okay. As I said, there are times where you might need to worry that something's going on, but just I've had a lot of conversation with a lot of all of you actually, usually on here or on Instagram actually through DMs. And we always have interesting chats about things that might be struggling, and we always more or less end up to the same thing where if we're not 100% sure of what it might be, we're both kind of look in the comments and just go, monitor. Just monitor for a few more days, because something else might come up that might go, aha, so it is actually that, or it isn't, and all these things. So keep a close eye. Moving on to the other strappy leaf, which is the Frederiksdalii. And again, this is doing quite well. You can see where that cold damage happened there and there. And most of these leaves are looking quite good. The rootage on this is spectacular. But that's new. That was not there when I first got this. So if that's anything to go by, this might be a fast grower. I might be wrong, but this might be a fast grower. And a lot of people actually said with this one that, because this is the one that I got wrong, thinking it was Enid's kind of more challenging plant, which again eludes me in terms of the name I had at the top there. It's the one that looks like chicken feet. But this one, for the people that have actually got it, because it isn't the one that Enid was talking about that gave her challenging times, it's actually apparently quite easy to grow. So this is quite an interesting one. And I think this one, from what I can see, the leaves can get quite large and they might be kind of very Vitarifolium-esque. Just leaves for days. But yeah, really, really happy as well with this one. So this one is doing quite well. There is a support stick that is doing pretty much nothing, so I might need to just attach it. But interestingly with this one, I think the reason why I didn't attach it is because I didn't know if it was a crawler. So I will do a tiny bit more research with this and see if this needs to get placed more kind of vertically like that. So like the Vitara Folium rather than going upwards. And if that will keep it a bit happier, then that's fine. I'll do it. And it can be another one of those ones that tumbles down. I do love those Anthuriums. So coming on to one that I was really worried about, and I don't think I'm out of the woods just yet. So this is the Philodendron patricii. It is doing a lot better. Obviously, you can see the coral damage. Oh, and it's still going. But the really good thing that I've just noticed here, and you might be able to see, there is a new growth point that's coming out of that cataphyll on there. So I have got hopes for this. I can't see any new roots on this, and I've been trying to see this for days because I don't know if it's happy or not. So far it's doing okay. I know from a lot of you that got the larger versions of these potentially shipped to you as well. They looked spectacular, and I hope that everything is okay and they didn't go through the same cold situation that mine did. But I'm okay, I'm happy with it. There's an old cataphyll on here that I'm just trying to take off, so there we go. But so far so good. This is not out of, it's out of intensive care. It's just in kind of monitoring stage at the moment now. So let's see how it goes. I really hope that this one does pull through because this was part spot the theme. This was part of the reason why I originally wanted to put the order in, is I wanted to get this specific plant. So let's see how it goes. But so far, so good. As I said, it's a shame that I can't see any new roots, but considering the fact that it's not getting any worse and it does kind of wilt a bit, not wilt, but you know, if you've taken too long to water something, it starts looking a bit, I'm a bit thirsty. That's what this was doing. So every time I water it, it does plump up again and doesn't really show any real signs of distress. So let's see with this one. By far the hardest plant to get out of where it was. So this is the philodendron, I think. Yes, Philodendron paloraense. And this is the one that I got as a dupe of the Tesla plant, which again, I cannot remember. I want to say Tortum, it's not, but I will add it at the top there. But you can kind of see what the leaves look like. And this is plumping up finally. This one looked like it might be struggling or it might have had some rot because it wasn't kind of opening up its leaves too much. The roots on this, oh no, we have got some new rootage. It's just very, very fine rootage with this one. I have added it still into a chunkier mix. And I think the difference between this one and the Tesla plant is that it's how the leaf is structured. So this is all one leaf rather than, and it's how it folds. And I think the other one, it's actually tri-lobed. I might be wrong, but I think that's the main difference. And this one, it's quite interesting on how it grows. However, this was unfurling before when it kind of arrived, and it is still unfurling. I'm trying to see what's the best way of doing this so that it doesn't. Do you get that? Where there's a new leaf that by default is touching something like a support stick or the moss pole, and it doesn't matter how you move it, it's still touching it, so you might get some mechanical damage on there. How frustrating is that? But this one is one that apparently grows a tiny bit faster than the other one. So that'd be quite interesting. And this one's got more telltale corking that happens along the stem. And corking is when that stem looks a bit like a cork or more like a tree bark, it tends to go a bit rougher. Succulents will get that on occasion, and some people get really worried and think that there's something wrong with their succulents. It's a normal part of the plant's kind of life cycle, and it's what it does. I don't quite know why. I would imagine it's something to do with support potentially, but so far, so good with this one as well. So this is the other one that worried me a bit, and this is the Philodendron Sharonii. And to be fair, it is doing okay. Is it living its best life? Maybe not. Is this kind of in that in-between stage where I'm just having to like watch out for it a bit more like the Philodendron Patriciae? Yes. Are they all the same kind of long leaves? Yes. And these are the two plants that I got because matchy with the Esmeraldas behind me, obviously. But it's still got the new cataphyll coming in. It's growing some lovely aerial roots on that cataphyll, if you might be able to see there. This is again in a semi-hydro mix. This is in a finer mix. And I'm trying to see if there's any new roots. I don't think there are, but it's okay. It's doing okay. I'm actually going to say something, and hopefully I don't have to chew my words. If you want to get a philodendron from some place like Ecuador, especially because the roots can be quite fine and they can crisp up, like I experienced with my first kind of import, especially during winter, I would say if you can get them ordered and go and pick them up from a pop-up, as long as it's not freezing cold like mine did, try that. I might be wrong. I'm sure a lot of you that have had bad experiences will let us all know in the comments down below. But this batch of philodendrons, and I think I might have just lucked out, have touch wood, I don't want to jinx it, have been okay. So let's see how things go. But kind of any commentary that I can make at the moment is generally going to be conjecture, I think is the right word. Like, I'm assuming based on my one experience that that might be the case. It might not be, but requires further investigation, I think. Moving on to the Anthurium that has got the most aggressive root growth. It hasn't really got any upwards growth yet, and by upwards growth I mean foliage growth. But the Anthurium eminence, which is the one that didn't have a label basically, and this is the one that it's quite interesting now that I know what this plant looks like properly after that video. So the leaves start off as strappy, then they get bigger straps, then they start splitting and it kind of almost looks like it's trilobed. This is the plant that I was talking about, turns into like an umbrella in terms of leaflets on the one petiole that are part of the same leaf. So this changes drastically, and you can see one of the very original leaves. Very cool. I like it when plants change morphologically hugely as they grow along. When I say aggressive root growth, can you see the green and white fuzzies that are there? Those are brand new in the time since it's been here. So this is very happy. I have got high hopes for this, but this was also the one that I don't know if you can see had all the lovely little aerial roots on there. And I was going to put some sphagnum moss on it, but it kept dropping. And I'm just like, you know what? You're still living your best life. It's fine. But yes, I have very excited to see what this is like. I don't know, because obviously we're seeing a lot of root growth. I don't know how fast this is in terms of foliar growth, but time will tell, and there obviously will be another update in a couple of months' time now after this. And it'd be interesting because we'd be heavily into summer at that point. So very impressed with this one. And I did leave the struggle bus for last. Let's have a look at this. I've still got hopes for this, but let's see. So this little pathetic thing, which has lost a leaf from each one of the plantments. There was two seedlings essentially in here. This was the Capullisparthum, Anthurium capullisparthum. So this, I'm really hoping that that new leaf, because it's got two growth points. You might be able to see one there and one there. And yeah, obviously the cold damage on this was significant. Obviously it was a seedling. This was also a new leaf and it's still hardening off. So it's going to look a bit musty and dusty for a while, but there is a new leaf hopefully that's going to come in there and that should help support that plantlet. This one is doing better. This was a more mature leaf. It had hardened off already, and obviously the cold damage is there. It did lose a couple of those leaves. However, the roots are looking okay, I think. I say this whilst I'm looking at it going, has this got root rot? Probably not, but the roots are there. They're looking a bit on the dark side for me, but they were also covered in soil with this one, so we'll see. This might be one that if it doesn't survive, I might just have to bite the bullet and buy a slightly more mature form directly from them, because those slightly larger plants, this is the first time I bought a seedling from them. Main reason for that being is that the Capillus spartum, if you've never seen it, have a look on Google. They get huge leaves. So I'm just like, I don't know how big the big is or the medium is, because a lot of times when you order from Ecogenera, they're bigger than you ever expected. So I'm just like, let's go for a seedling and let it grow in my space, and then I can kind of maybe manage it a bit more. In hindsight, I should have got the seedling close, like I should have done an order. It might still happen in like June, July time. So it'll be warmer by the time it gets here, but we'll see basically. But yeah, so far so good-ish with this one. And before I put it back, because I was just planning on putting it back, I don't know why it's leaning that way. It's getting plenty of light where it needs to get it. So it's very much a lean on me situation between these two leaves here. I'm okay with that. I would just let it do its thing. Okay, so let's do a quick kind of update as well on the previous order. Oh, pride of a space. You can see the two potentially oldest leaves in the background there. This of the brand new leaf. It's not even fully hardened off yet. Of the Queen Anthurium, and I get it. I do get it now. I do get it now. Took me a while, but I finally got there. I get it. And I have got high hopes if that's the next leaf from the other two that I got, that this will just keep sizing up. Interestingly, with this one, it had a tiny bit of spider mite damage at the very tip there. So I've dealt with that now, but yeah, that one is doing exceptionally well. And hopefully you might be able to see the serpens up here. That right at the back there, and I'll see if I can get some close-ups, but these plants are a bit harder to move at this point in time, is this newest leaf of the serpents. So I am super happy with that. Then it's all good news of that original order, I think, pretty sure, yeah. So then back from the brink of death, and you can see the original chunk, the Philodendron rubri juvenile as the El Chocored. So really, really good. This went into a prop box, and I think somebody was asking me 2 or 3 months, and it was starting to get new foliage. You just love it when that happens, when they get new foliage first before they start getting any roots, and they've got no roots left. And there's like, can you just get some roots, please? But this is rooted out quite nicely. Moved it recently, I think only a couple of weeks ago, into this, and you can see that's all new roots since it's been moved into the semi-hydro mix. So it is loving a life, and I could not be happier. I will add one more plant from the original order because apparently I keep forgetting it every time. I forgot it on my plant care app as well, but let's do the very final one. Philodendron linamii. And this one, again, I think it's sacrificing that is probably the oldest leaf. Root-wise, I think we're doing okay. You might be able to see there, it's very, very small roots, but look at how small the pot is in relation to the plant. This I didn't realize until somebody very helpfully told me, I can't remember who it was now, this is also a crawler. So this will definitely be going into a different type of pot very soon. But so far, it's okay. This is one of the few philodendrons that I was a bit worried about, because this one still hasn't fully hardened off yet. But let's see how this one goes. So the other good news update, again from the previous order, the Anthurium esmeraldense has got a brand new leaf coming in. I don't know whether or not this is going to be picked up, but you might be able to see it there. The one thing I will say about the Anthurium esmeraldense is the new leaves, when they come in, they're so deep burgundy that they're particularly black, which for me, we tend to like Gothic plants. Wonderful. The other one that, again, I can't move down. I'll see if I can get a picture of the Anthurium pendens. I think pendens. Pedatum. Pedatum, I think. It's the one with the fingers. Still doing exceptionally well. The newest leaf. Oh, and I might have to bring it down because I just want to show you the size of it. Ooh, getting that thing down is going to be a pain. Give me a sec. And I've only just watered it as well, so it's going to spill over me. But look at the size of that leaf. Right, I will put it back because that reservoir is full and I'm going to drop it on everything. I think I might wrap it there because for the love of everything holy, I do not remember what else I bought from that original order. And I do appreciate the privilege of me just being able to say that sentence. I get it. But yes, I think that's everything I wanted to share for now. Did any of that surprise you? Some of it surprised me, to be fair. But yeah, so far, touch wood, exception of a couple of wobbly bits, which I think most people would have expected by now. Okay, the cold damage would have shown its teeth by now, I would have imagined, for most of this plant, and it has with some of them. I'm thinking of the Capillisparthum now. But okay, so let's see how we get along. As I said, there probably will be an update in a couple of months' time. But did any of this surprise you? Did you get because a lot of people were really good at sharing that they got an order recently as well. Did you get an order? And if you did, what did you get in your order? And how did it fare? But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon. And I truly, truly hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.